All right, in this video today, we're going to look at line of pull. With this video, we want to begin to understand that you don't have to memorize vast amounts of data to understand an action within a muscle, but very quickly be able to look at a muscle and see what its actions may be just based off what we'll see. All right, so in this example, let's just draw a bone right here. All right, and let's say that our muscle is here. We've got to have our striations. That also helps us understand how the line of pull may be. But with every muscle, we know that we have to have an origin and an insertion. Origins are typically closer to the torso, so they're less mobile, more stable, as here. And our insertion is going to be more distal or further away from the torso, so it's going to be more mobile, less stable. All right, well, we also have our muscle belly. That's the center of the muscle. That's where all the fibers are going to come together to create the contraction. All right, so let's before we do that, I like to take my hand, if I'm taking a test or look at an illustration, to be able to understand how the action is going to perform. Let's imagine this is the humerus, and so this is the elbow joint. And the joint would be about right here, right? Well, if I put my fingers here, this is the more stable, this is the more mobile aspect of the muscle belly. If I were to pull this direction, it's going to perform flexion at the elbow joint of this muscle. However, if we looked more of a kinesiology aspect, those roles could be flipped to where this might be the origin, this might be the insertion, terminology-wise, to where this one's more mobile, this one's more stable. But for today, as this illustration, we're looking at it as how we were taught actions from our anatomy books. All right? So let's go ahead and erase this. And I'm going to turn on this overhead projector. And we're going to use one of our apps we use here at Texas Massage Academy. That's a great little app. Take a moment for my projector to warm up. Alright, so we're connecting to it wirelessly right now. As this builds a connection, we're going to use this app, which is a great illustration of a skeleton, and we are going to draw a couple muscles on top of it, work our way through it, and see if we can kind of understand the line of pull. Alright, so with my illustration right here, let's get a little better view for you guys. Let's get it about here. Yeah. Alright, within this illustration, the spine of the scapula is right back here, the acromion, and the lateral 1/3 of the clavicle. All right? So this muscle that may attach in this area can come down to the deltoid tuberosity, come back. So the anterior fibers transition into the medial fibers, and then to the posterior fibers that we can't see on this illustration, but are still there. If we were to look at this illustration, use the same technique that we used a while ago of our acromion being here, deltoid tuberosity being about midway, halfway down the arm. If I were to take, looking at the anterior fibers, and if I were to do line of pull or pull, even this way, what action would happen at the GH joint? We would have abduction and medial rotation. Kind of easy to see. If we were to rotate our partner here, our little skeleton, and let's just say infraspinatus, would be something like that. Would that do adduction, because it's adding it to the torso, and possibly external rotation? That would make sense using the line of pull, right? All right. Let's turn some muscles on so we can actually see the musculature. So there's our infraspinatus, teres minor, same type of action. Look, what is this muscle here? That's our supraspinatus. If we were to do the same action here, it would only do abduction. All right. How about our pec? So this is our pec major. See, all the fibers been attached on the medial 1/3 of the clavicle, the sternum, and ribs 1 through 6, attached down to the humerus. We were to once again pinch or pull using our line of pull. What type of action would happen at the GH joint? It's going to do flexion for the upper fibers, flexion, and horizontal adduction. You can also do that for the medial fibers. So if you were in the gym and you were to be on a machine that might have a pulley system, and if I had the pulley system going towards the ground, the resistance would be here. That would be working those fibers, the clavicle fibers, if I were to pull it up. If I changed that pulley system to more it was horizontal and I pulled it straight across, that would hit my middle fibers. And opposing, if I did lower fibers, took my hand from the upper position being pulled towards the ceiling, if I pulled it down, that would hit my costal fibers. All right? Let's look at one more muscle, which is a really fun one to be able to look at and read the muscle braille or the muscle line of pull. Let's look at the longest muscle in the body. Let's look at the Sartorius. All right, so the Sartorius attaches on the ASIS, comes down and attaches on the medial aspect of the tibia. Well, since it crosses two joints, we know it's going to have even more actions than a muscle that just crossed one joint. So it's going to perform, if we were to do the line of pull, it's going to flex at the coxal joint. It's also going to adduct. It is going to laterally rotate. Now, a lot of students or therapists may get confused over lateral, medial rotation or external, internal rotation when it comes to the femur. Here's what I like to think about. Line of pull here. If I put my thumb on my thigh this direction, and if I were to pinch it, it's going to perform lateral rotation or external rotation. As it comes from ASIS down to the medial part of the kneecap, right? So it's also going to perform flexion at the kneecap. All right. If I'm seated with the knee flexed, the muscle can still engage, but it's only going to, because it's already in the flexed position and adducted, it's only going to perform medial rotation of the flexed knee. All right. The action of the Sartorius would be to do what? To cross our foot over our leg. All right. So that's the action we would think about, but that's all those actions combined together for the Sartorius. All right. Let's use one more example here. Let's look at the skeleton to get one more view of it. We're not really worried so much about what muscle this might be, but again, the actions. I got a couple of different ways to look at this, just kind of help us from different learning aspects to see what might be able to remember it easier for each of us. All right, let's just say there was a muscle that attached here on the pinky, so that would be kind of like this right here. If it attached on the anterior part of the upper arm, right, what type of action would that perform? Line of pull, flexion. All right, that makes sense. If it attached on the posterior, and let's say that the attachment was also on the posterior part of the arm, let's do it this way, what type of action would happen with that? Extension. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. Now granted, there could be more actions with, if you want to get down to all the different actions of it, let's let you understand looking down to the fiber aspect, what you can look at for reading the line of pull. Let's say here, there were our muscle in our arm. What action would that do? Flexion. And that's how you do line of pull. It's pretty simplistic, pretty easy. We'll talk in another video about eccentric, concentric, and isometric contractions. Thank you.